Okay, just leave that there. There we go.
The Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. It's Tom Dutta like butter. Man, I don't know what's going on in your part of the world, but we had a windstorm last night. I still managed to get some sleep, ready to go, and it's bright and sunny. It's funny how the world can shift. Welcome to the show. Before we get going and bring on our guests, I have an important announcement I'd like to make. So here we go. We've recently been recognized by Million Podcasts, a global platform used by PR and media professionals to track the world's most impactful shows. I'm proud to announce that our show has been ranked in 3 categories. First, we have been ranked top 100 life stories podcast internationally. And even more exciting for our local and professional community, we've been named one of the top 10 Pacific Northwest leadership podcasts and one of the top 10 Canadian leadership podcasts on the web today. Now, this recognition is a testament to the incredible guests and is an example of the one we're going to meet in just a moment. And of course, to all of you, the listeners, when we live stream, we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble. We are booked every week in the studio. We've done over 330 live stream interviews, and we're booked out 3 months with a waiting list. And so thank you very much for this important recognition. We will keep the momentum going. What would we like to get to know our next guest from the inside out? Well, let me start off with what I call the show hook. We're going to get him on the screen here in just a moment. Sometimes the longest distance you'll ever travel is from who you were to who you weren't meant to be. Today, I meet a man I once knew only by his success. A sharp suit, a confident handshake, the kind of professional presence that turns heads in a boardroom. But I never knew the story behind that suit. The one filled with loss, guilt, redemption. Garnet Morris wrote 17 runs. 17 runs after losing 2 siblings to suicide and nearly losing himself. He was 130 pounds heavier, angry, disconnected, and tired of pretending. So he started to run, not for fitness, for forgiveness. 17 runs later, he found a new life, a new love, and a reason to speak. And now he's ready to share that journey with you. If you think success means never failing or never falling, listen to this story. It might just teach you what it means to rise. Welcome to the show, Garnet Morris.
Thank you. And congratulations on your awards and your standing in the podcast world.
Oh, I received that with great pride. Thank you, Garnet. So, hey, this is live streaming. We're just going to have fun today. It's great to have you. How do I say it? Is it Garnet? Is it Garnet? Or
I pretty much respond to all of them, so Garnet is the proper.
Okay. I was having some fun waiting for you. I was going to call you G-Man, but I'm sure you've been called worse than that.
I've been called that too, so yeah.
Yeah. So just while we get connected, before we get into Plato's Garden for some storytelling, wanted to ask you where you're located. This is international audience, so where are you at?
Today I'm in West Vancouver, so I go between here and Blaine, Washington. So I spend probably half of my time in the States and half the time in Canada.
Oh, that's amazing. I have this this book here. What guy wrote this book? Or there's a couple of people who wrote it.
Well, it's me and my original coach, my running coach, Olivia Chadwick. So she was we had this special connection, and so we usually were diving into all these aspects that we're talking about in the book, like within 2 minutes of every run. So it was a really unique journey.
That's amazing.
Training for a run in Kananaskis.
Yeah, that's very cool. We will ask you throughout to feature it and hold it up. I'm just going to show it to the camera. There's a couple people on there. For those on the audio later, you won't see that. But the back of a book is packed with bios and things. I won't read that because we'll get into it in the story. So, hey, Garnet, are you ready to go into Plato's Garden and have some fun?
Yeah.
Okay, let me put some on the screen here and set this up. Again, we're live streaming, everyone. We'll edit all this and make it pretty later. There's a handsome guy on that matinee poster. Let's go to this one here. Okay, stand by. What would it be like to go into Plato's Garden with Garnet Morris? Well, here we are in Plato's Garden. Welcome, Garnet. And let me explain to the audience and yourself what this is all about. Plato, as you might know, was an Athenian philosopher during the classical period in ancient Greece, the founder of the Platonist school of thought and the academy, or from the Greek word academia. Apparently, Garnet, it was the first learning institution in the Western world. So what we're going to do today, you may not even know I'm doing this, but I explained it for this reason. We're going to be doing what's called critical thinking. And that means that rather than just talking and answering questions, we're going to weave stories through three different areas. The first one is macro, and we won't stay in this order, but macro, Garnet, is what was happening in the world around you that influenced the context of your work, so the global world. So, for example, if you had parents growing up in the Depression or you went through certain times in the world, it might influence your work. Second area is mezzo, what was happening in the industry or the sector where you've created your public work. And third is micro, and this is my favorite, Garnet, and it's all over your book. It's about you, the man. What was going on with you personally? And some of the guests I have take us right back to childhood. That's how fun it is. So we're going to just change the view on the screen here. So I'm going to throw out a question. We're just going to riff on it. So let's start with, why don't we start in micro? I'll call this the person beneath the persona. So you write that you were once angry, distant, 130 pounds overweight. What finally made you decide to stop running from your story and start running for your life?
That was in Pearson Airport, late, plane landed late. I had meetings to get to. Had a big briefcase, towing a suitcase, and I'm walking like the airport and I'm sweating like a pig, literally. And that's what I said to myself. And it just has to stop.
Wow.
And so I finished off the trip and I went home and started.
Yeah. How many years ago was that? So Pearson, I know, is Ontario for the audience, Ontario, Canada, busy airport. How many years ago would that be?
It'd be 30 years ago, 31 years ago.
Goodness gracious. Do you sometimes look back at those pictures and go, my gosh, 130 pounds, that was me?
I don't spend too much of my time looking backwards. I mean, I can use the stories to help other people, but I mean, I'm still moving forward. I still have lots to correct. And so, it's
as you know, this is storytelling. So when I see you say something, it evokes something in me. I'm sitting here right now as a man who's 166 pounds. And if you had met me 6 months ago, I was 190. And so I have my own story as to why that drove me to lose that weight. I think what we know from what you said is sweating like a pig in an airport. There's motivation, but I know it's deeper than that. So let's get going further. How did loss in your life shape your capacity for love and connection? And you can get into what those elements were.
Well, I think the thing that where I look back, the first thing that it's both a blessing. Retrospectively, it's a blessing, but at the time it didn't seem much fun. I was really sick as a kid. I was severe asthmatic, so I spent a lot of time in the hospital because I'd get asthma, then pneumonia, then in the hospital, and I'd be in the hospital 2 or 3 times a year. And
Wow.
so you saw a different side of life from nurses and the staff in the hospital than what you had at home, which was not necessarily all that wonderful. And so when I think back, like I can remember being taught how to make, and I call them nurse corners, when you make your bed, because when you're in the hospital as a kid, they make you make your bed. And so I just carried all those things, through life. And I
Yeah,
still
it's
I mean, I just can't not do it.
yeah, you're taking me back again. My father was a commanding officer in the British Army before we came to Canada, and command and control kind of dad. And he was addicted. He became a bad alcoholic. He died in 2018. I love him and miss him. But I was taught make your bed every morning, and I didn't understand the significance of it either until I realized from a neuroscience point of view, it was developing a habit to accomplish something positive. I'll send it to you later, but I found a great video by an American military commander, and he actually used it as a motivational talk to, he says, if you want to be successful in life, make your bed. So you've taught us something great there. I want to go back to Lost. Now this book, hold it up there. I know you've got your copy. Just put it on the screen there. Read the title out just out loud.
So the unbeaten path to unlock life's true potential.
Yeah, I got one too, and you were so gracious to sign it. And I want to honor Olivia. She's not here on the broadcast, but we're talking about her work. What's with the cover? What's that supposed to be?
So that's actually the Besborough Hotel in Saskatoon and the Saskatchewan River. Because that's sort of the setting. It's the setting of all these discussions we had, because we used to run along the river.
Wow, it's beautiful, and the full jacket cover is nice, and you've even signed it, which I'm so honored. Is that watercolor? It looks like it was a watercolor painting.
Yeah, we went through a few iterations before we came up with something that was the right colors, because the artists that were doing this couldn't actually picture what I think the color should look like in Saskatchewan.
It looks beautiful. There's something about that green. You got it on the wall in the back too. It's very, very calming. Who were you writing to when you wrote this book?
So Olivia had a son that severe heart condition, and so I met Olivia just as she was going through separation and divorce. So, and I had a real affinity for her son. I looked at him as someone who was fighting the odds like I fought when I was young, and we hit it off right away. So he, just loved to hang out, and so I think he was 4. And so so I kind of dedicated it to him, or we did, because there's a lot of kids like that face adversity from the beginning. And I think that if they understand that it's something that actually can make you stronger rather than, be a reason to not do stuff, that I think that's the most important message.
Yeah, no, thank you. I put another camera on the screen. I've got those who can see it. Garnet's book open here. I've got a little sticky note on it. I've marked up this book, read it cover to cover, and I had marked this page. It says son, I think Keenan, is that the name of the son?
Yeah, Keenan, yeah.
I just wrote here, or over top of the passage, the Magnificent, Keenan the Magnificent, 17th birthday. And it stuck with me, and it was really neat that you put it up front in the book. Let me ask you to dig into, there's painful parts in this book, man, that you reveal about yourself. And before I ask you to comment, you and I met once before, or you and I met through business. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And that's why in my intro, I talked about this sharp guy walking in with a suit. I didn't get to know you that well, but I was working with a friend of yours. And I just remember that you were very astute. And it made me think about this, and I'm going to throw back to you to comment, that we meet in life people who are wearing suits or wearing personas. We have this understanding from the outside of who they are, but they don't reveal their true selves. Many people don't. And when I read your book and all, I had tears. I was proud of you, and I am. But it told me a very different side of you, and it felt like I had known you for a long, long time. And I think that's the beauty of your book. So take us back into it. There was a mention of your 2 siblings. Tell us about that and how that impacted you.
So I had a brother and a sister commit suicide 6 weeks apart.
I'm so sorry.
It happened 2 successive trips. I used to go to Toronto every other week. And so I was in Toronto. My brother committed suicide. I went home. I missed a trip to Toronto, go back to Toronto. The next time my sister committed suicide. And you don't really have time to react or grieve because, my parents, it was devastating to my parents. And so you just do what you have to do to get through it. And we had the same minister to do the ceremonies. The second ceremony, he was a little bit harsher about the selfishness of suicide. And so then, time goes on and time goes on, and I go to a place called The Haven, and that's where I finally unwound all of the grief around the suicides and just, the feeling of loss of not having a family or losing your family.
Yeah, gosh, there's not many times that I feel speechless, but there's not anything I can say other than I'm so sorry for your loss. How long ago was that?
So I would have been in my 40s. So my brother and sister were in their mid-30s.
Yeah, I see. And were there signs? I'm an advocate for mental health, as you may know. I've done a TED Talk about it. I had a brain injury, fell on my head in a bathtub 2018 and slipped into depression, suicidal ideation, and had done so much therapy over 5 years to understand how these things could come through the mind. Was there signs of that with your siblings?
No. So my brother backed himself into a corner. He was not one who followed the rules well. And my mother really bailed him out and bailed him out and bailed him out. And he finally, he got separated from his wife. He wasn't paying child support, and the story was on and on. And finally, he was going to be incarcerated for not paying child support. So he took the easier way out. And then my sister, that was the tough one. She was CRA. She was successful. She's a person, and she, I think, took it upon herself to take the blame for my brother not making the corner. And so there was no signs of her struggling anywhere, and she went and got painkillers and overdosed. And that's the tragedy of that one. And so you just, you just have to work through it.
Sure. Yeah. Were you close with them in terms of relationship?
My sister, yes. Not my brother, no, because there was no repairing that. And if you stay involved, you get dragged backwards with it. So we didn't have much to do with each other. But my sister was, really just a solid person. There's just nothing going on with her that, and so she was next to me in age, a year and a half younger.
I see. So there were just the three siblings, or did you?
Well, no, I had my dad was married. His wife abandoned him with the little baby. And so I have a half sister. And then I was the next in line. And then I had a brother and three sisters. And so I still have one sister that I'm close with and another sister that I'm estranged from because her lifestyle doesn't fit with mine. So.
Sure. No, thanks for sharing all that. There's so much to that story. I encourage everybody to get the book 17 Runs. We'll get into this in a deeper way in a moment. There's a lot of your memoir that's in that. How hard was it for you to decide to write a memoir that was that revealing about these things?
It was, I think, I wrote the book not because people should feel bad for me, but so that people can look at adversity as a really powerful tool for success. And it's when you start to think of adversity from that context, you can really start to move ahead. So I mean, it was a series of coaches, a series of people that I met along the way that started to shift my whole focus and my whole philosophy around getting through life. Or not getting through life, enjoying life, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, when I met you, and it's a long time ago, I thought you were enjoying life. I had no idea that this was. I remember though there was a friend of ours. I won't mention his name for privacy, who once introduced you in a boardroom I was sitting in and intimated about your life and what you'd been through. And I never realized all of this. So thank you for sharing this with everyone, Garnet. In the memoir, or you can comment and correct me, there was this comment about anger. You're angry. What was anger in you about? Were you shaped well as a child? Was there something else going on? Was it the loss of your siblings? And then the question around this is, what did forgiveness look like for you? Was it physical, spiritual, or something else?
So my mother struggled raising a child that was sick. And so my home life was not amazing by any stretch of the imagination. I cover a bit in there, and some of it, like I have almost no recollection of my childhood, but my half sister, until she was sent away, did, and she gave me a good understanding. And so the anger that you kind of have is inside you. It's not like I was never abusive, aggressive, any of those things, but it's more kind of an anger at yourself, I think, or it's kind of hard to think. So I went through a couple of really transformative things. One was in business, or probably two different things at the same time, joining Strategic Coach, and the other one was meeting Willie Fournier, who was a consultant from Montreal, and he worked with a lot of First Nations. And so we were working with First Nations at that time with pension plans. And he really dug into values, and I started to unwind all of the stuff. And then from there, I went to counseling and just different things, and started to sort it out. And the Haven was kind of the last piece where, they really let it all out. I really let it all out. And since then, it's been feeling quite transformed.
It's an incredible story. Certainly, when I think about it, I try to put it in blocks of time. So where the transformation started with some of these conversations, you mentioned them just to us. How long ago would that be? Roughly?
So it started at age 40. So I have my best fat person picture, which was in late, I guess November in Lake Louise, and there's a picture of me with a cigarette hanging out of my mouth. And looking a little bit like a Hell's Angel, and my eminence is my bigness, I guess. And you have the Lake Louise Chateau in the background. So that is the picture before the transformation.
Wow, what were you doing at Lake Louise?
Smoking cigarettes because my kids wouldn't let me smoke in the hotel.
Hey, dude, and listen, man, Lake Louise has a big part of my heart. I haven't been there for a long time, but my wife and I, when we were engaged, I live in British Columbia, as you know, and we were driving in. Anna and I will celebrate 30 years in January. She's from just outside of Rome, born there, Italian, but being a Canadian. She's in the banking sector. That's where I met her. And we were in a rental car, driving to Lake Louise, believe it or not. We were driving just to go stay for a weekend, and proposed to her on the side of the road. I wrote down the mileage thing there. Can't find that, but we went, and the most memorable thing about that hotel, and you can comment anything you want on this, I was stunned by the lake. It was frozen, and they put us one night on a horse-drawn sleigh and took us around the lake. They gave us blankets. It was cold. It was lit up by the moon, and you could hear the ice creaking. And then they said at the end of the lake, when they got out there, these were two Clydesdales type horses, and there's maybe 10 of us on the sleigh, right? It's like, when we get to the end, we're going to get you all to get off while we turn it around. And somebody asked why that, and they said, well, if the ice cracks or something and we lose the sleigh. And I was like, but I never forget it. It brings moments. So I'm going to challenge you. You were there smoking cigarettes, but in that beautiful place, was there a moment or something memorable that left a mark on you, whether it's visual or something?
No, I can tell you what left the mark. That's just the best picture I have that represented me at the time. When I decided to change my health, I went to a doctor in Saskatoon. It was a locum, just a temporary doc. And she said, well, Garnet, I'll tell you what to do, but don't expect me to be your mother. And that was a transformative comment. It was a little bit humiliating, but it was really, really an interesting thing. So,
amazing. Let's take a bit of a turn into Metso, the sector and the systems we operate in. I call it that as a theme. And correct me if I'm wrong, because this is what I knew from before, but you lead or led. I know there's other business things you're involved in, but you lead a successful financial service company. I think it was called Targeted Strategies, or still is. How has your personal journey changed the way you lead and relate to clients now?
So I basically sold out Targeted to the staff, and I'm quite active in the U.S. in different segments, and a lot of other segments. But what the thing that I really want to focus on, and we talk about it in the book, are values. And so now I give talks on values to young people, because I think that strong values are the keys to success. So that's where you get your resilience from. That's where you get this ability to overcome, the ability to be honest and at all costs. So that was the really transformative part, as part of losing weight, is that being honest with yourself and not.
Yeah. Let me ask you, if you grew up, I mean, we have some parallels. So my father left home when I was 12, and my mom and dad split. I lost touch with my brothers. I have two brothers. And are values and belief systems generally shaped in you, in your opinion, from your first 5-10 years? If you lose that nucleus, I mean, how does one create values? Is it a picture on a wall? Because I just want to say this provocatively, that when I go into businesses, sometimes, and I come from as a CEO pedigree, sometimes you see value statements on the walls, and I always shake my head and go, somebody made those up and they want me to embrace them and understand them. I didn't have an input in them. I don't even know how to visualize and act them. So just talk more to us, because your book does a good job on this topic.
Yeah. So we have a value statement for our family that we developed together, and it is our no matter what values. Okay. And so, to give you an example, integrity is a value. So it's a no matter what. So I don't care if you like what I have to say or not. I'm not going to be dishonest in my statement. If it's really troublesome, I just won't answer. Loyalty. So being willing to take a stand for somebody. And so that's our family value. So if our friends are in trouble and they're loyal as well, then we'll take a stand for them. And we have, and we've helped lots of people, and so forth and so on. So the values that we have are what drives you every day when you go to work, when you start a business, when you look at investing in a business, all of those things. And I think that you can develop them and hone them and improve them every day.
I see. Yeah, it's wonderful. Let me just put the camera back on the screen here. Actually, before I do that, Garnet, hold up the book again, please, because we're going to use this to feature when we release it. Yeah, there it is. Love it. Great cover. Thanks. I'm going to put another camera up for a moment. So I'm on, you obviously know it inside out, but on page 68, everyone, in the book, the chapter's values are the core of a prosperous life. And there's a really cool saying there that stood out. It's a quote. It says, you who are on the road must have a code you try to live by. And then it says, teach your children, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. I love that. Were you a music fan, or was that just something
I loved them as a band, them and lots of others, but that song in particular resonated from the time I heard it. And
really?
It still brings tears to my eyes when I hear it.
Yeah, I love it. So let me talk about ask you to talk about the structure of the book. I'm a published author, so I understand structure is important. Why did you write it the way you did? And what people won't know until they get it, and I want them to get it, is there's little stories from both you and your co-author throughout. Just talk about the structure, and then there's the word number 17 means something.
The structure came because Olivia and I have a parallel life almost, but 3 decades apart. So she lost a sibling to suicide. She left home, left her mother and moved to Canada with her father. So we both went through turmoil. So the way that we looked at the book, she is now where I was at the beginning. And we had a lot of stories, and so we could see the parallels in each other's lives.
Yeah.
And the 17 came. I mean, it's a metaphor for runs. I mean, we had way more than 17 runs. We ran 3 mornings a week. I did weights 3 days a week, and I worked out without fail, because when I decide, I decide. But that was a metaphor anyway. So it was all part of a training series of training runs for the Kananaskis 100-mile race.
Yeah. And where's, for the audience, again, international, so some don't know, Kananaskis is where?
So it's south of Banff National Park. It's in the Rocky Mountains. And so
I see.
It's a pretty challenging terrain to run a marathon in.
Yeah. So I'm trying to draw this geography. You're like what they call the Renaissance man, but we heard about Ontario, or we heard about Kananaskis and then Lake Louise, which is in Alberta, and you live in West Vancouver, BC. You were born in Saskatchewan somewhere, right?
Yeah, right down by the U.S. border. So for people that are more American than Canadian, it's straight north of Montana, Havre, Montana.
Yeah.
And so it's right smack dab in the middle of absolutely nowhere.
Right. Yeah, I've been there.
And there's nothing there. Now it's a national park.
I see. Yeah, we're trying to draw, again, you're doing a good job. We're in Plato's Garden here with Garnet Morris, the co-author of 17 Runs, The Unbeaten Path to Unlock Life's True Potential, weaving a story of the influences of context of his life. And this curiosity about why did you come to BC? Was it purely business, or was it the Olivia relationship, or?
No, she lives in Saskatchewan. So we make funny decisions. So we bought a house in Blaine, and we organized to get with appropriate visas to be able to work in the U.S. And I have a big passion for healthcare now, and that is a real big focus in my life. And so we have a place there and a place in Saskatoon, which is really inconvenient. And so we were staying in hotels in Vancouver and going back and forth. So we decided to buy a house in Vancouver. So I actually still own a place in Saskatchewan. I'm a Saskatchewan taxpayer. We have a residence in West Vancouver and a residence across the border in Blaine, Washington. So I am contributing to the economy of Saskatchewan. Well, I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but yeah.
I think it all helps. Every tax dollar helps, I'll tell you, especially the state that we find in the economy. And it's interesting. West Vancouver, for those who don't know, it's a beautiful place. I have a lot of friends there, and I used to live out there. But is it still like the highest income per capita? Some of the people who live out there and even the British properties, these multi-million-dollar states, it's a draw for people who want a certain lifestyle, right?
I think. Well, in my view, it's a draw for people who never like to walk horizontally. It's either uphill or downhill. There's no flat anywhere.
This is true.
They're nice big lots, and we bought it at the right time. We didn't buy anywhere near the peak, and it's beautiful. We'll see a bear in our driveway one day, or a deer, or who knows what. But my heart's still a Saskatchewan heart. Like I don't think I can ever get that feeling, and I think there's a closeness in Saskatchewan that you don't quite have in this part of Vancouver.
Yeah, for sure. You might see, if I put a different view on the camera here, see in the back there under my screen is a brain.
Yep.
I call him Mr. Brain. I take him when I go public speaking, and it's because of the injury I had. I couldn't walk or talk. I fell on my head and almost ended my life. It was terrible. But I was doing a 2-day ride for cancer, the Ride to Conquer Cancer. I had done the first 125K with a team of 80 riders. I was in peak form and slipped in the tub, fell back, broke it with my head, cracked it. And so I studied deeply about the brain, and particularly why your book resonates is there's a lot of Okay, we went offline there for a minute. Are you still there?
I just lost you in Euro.
Yeah, we'll edit that out. I'm not sure what that was. But, memories and thoughts, especially of trauma, deep in the parts of the brain like hippocampus and the amygdala. And I really believe that where you grow up, your roots, there's these unconscious feelings and connections. And, sometimes I think that's why we still have this attachment to where we're from. I'm really glad to hear you had a good upbringing. Are your mom and dad still with you today?
No, I lost both my parents. They both died at age 78, and they both died on Valentine's Day. That's a whole story in itself around my parents. My mother was not kind, and I think she did the best she could, but didn't have many tools. Yeah. And my dad was one of the most patient people I ever met. And so, but he had a lot on his plate. So I still have very fond memories of my father, and was with him when he died, and
That's good.
the church choir he was in came and sang to him as he was going, as he said to me, "Son, it's time for me to go meet my maker." And that's one of the most touching periods in my entire life, just to have to see him like that.
Yeah, I can feel. I'm emotive. I can feel the emotion. That's remarkable. You've got so many interesting parts of the story. On the Valentine's Day, both parents. So that's quite something. What did Dad do? What was his profession?
He was CPR agent when I was young, and then CPR was closing all their stations, so he went to work as a credit union manager, and so that's what he did till he retired. And then he worked. We had hotels at the time, and he worked there. And
very good.
Yeah.
Let's get back into Plato's intermezzo again. Again, the sector. What does emotional wealth mean in an industry that measures everything in dollars and returns?
Well, I mean, I still spend a lot of time thinking about this and a lot of time talking about this. And so I think that we have to be, I'll give you a saying that is sort of the root of what I think. So it's from Thich Nhat Hanh. And he says, we're all perfect the way we are, but we have room for improvement. And so if you don't become bitter because you're not happy with the state you're in, and you don't make an excuse for it, but you just say, well, I am what I am, but I can improve. So I got years of counseling from the Buddhist perspective from a counselor in Saskatoon, and her whole thing was, but Garnet, it's today. What are you doing about things today? And so, I learned to start to always be moving forward, to always be positive, to look past the things that need to be looking past, but never to make an excuse for myself for not doing what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I'm sure you've had feedback from people that you're a remarkable person to have that mindset. I think that of you just from reading the book and hearing you. It's very hard because of the negative bias a brain has to stay positive. I feel that from you, especially after everything that you've done in your life. You mentioned this strategic coach, and I thought about this. And has vulnerability ever been a competitive advantage for you? And in strategic coach, I remember they use the term unique ability, but would you see that as your unique ability?
I'm definitely an empath or a vulnerable person. And I think that the phrase that I've used to describe it is you have to earn your way out of my trust, not earn your way in. So I start off by trusting you, but I'm very intuitive. If you're dishonest, you just won't be part of my life. And I think that by having that philosophy, when you meet people along the way, they instinctively feel a connection to you because they're not doubted at the outset. They have to earn that doubt. And so I know I'm very, very introverted, but I know literally thousands of people, and I've built so many interesting friendships around the world. And I think it's because I start off that way. Yeah.
There's definitely, that's a gift. I interviewed a doctor of psychology recently. You'll see her on my show. It'll be released at some point. And she talked about hypersensitive people. And she actually has a quiz on her website. But apparently you're born hypersensitive. In terms of empathy, you're not born that way. Some people have it and some people don't. But I did some research on this in my doctorate I just worked on, and they say you can teach somebody to be empathic if they're not naturally. So for example, you can show them a situation that here's somebody who slips on a banana peel and falls down and hurts their leg. This is what you do. You put your hand out, see if you can feel them and help them. So has it always been that you're empathic? Because something doesn't line up in my mind when I hear that. And then there was anger and all these challenges you had.
No, I've been that way my whole life. And one of the things that I did as part of relearning who I am and all, I did all these personality tests. So I'm an INFJ. Empathy is my number one in Strength Finder. Anywhere you go, you find that resonates. And I mean, I used to try to take something to the teacher every day at school in grade 1 and grade 2. And if I forgot, I'd go racing home. I couldn't go to school because I was worried how the teacher would feel if I didn't, and so I can trace this back to when I was
interesting. Yeah, no, I'm glad you clarified that, because I think we have to honor you with the amount of self-development work you've done. I'm impressed that you've done personality science. I'm an ENTJ, I think, in Myers-Briggs, and I have what's called a blue personality. So I live through intimacy. And so, hey, Garnet, I'm getting a bit of feedback. Are you using external speakers where I'm coming?
No, just.
Okay, hopefully that'll just disappear. For some reason, I'm getting an echo. Testing. We'll edit all this. Okay, I think we're good. All right, are you having a good time so far? Can we keep going?
I enjoy this, and
okay, awesome.
I love talking about personalities, and
yeah, nice. So you said Strength Finders. That's one of the things that I've learned I had to do myself, is find my strengths and limitations. And so, what's one of your greatest strengths, in your opinion?
I think that it's the greatest strength, but it's also a conundrum. So, empathy, drive, and my other one is ideation. So, I'm not creative, but I'm really good at putting disparate ideas together. So that was how I was successful in insurance. That's how we view things in our businesses now, and in healthcare and all that. And it just means that everything has a place to fit with something else. And so you'll meet a person and you think about how they fit or where they fit. You see an idea, so you'll see. So I'm studying robotics right now because I'm trying to understand what's going to happen with robotics. And you start to see how, you start to weave the ideas together, and it makes life really exciting.
Yeah, you just actually just described again Plato's Garden, which is I read a book by a fellow named Timothy Morton, and he talks about the mesh, how meshing together all our thoughts. So I can think about, the sky above and the ground I'm standing on, but critically think about all those thoughts and find the way they mesh a deeper meaning. You seem like a very highly curious man, a very highly intelligent man, but very curious. I think that's definitely a strength. Let's get back into Plato's. I'm just going to talk about the global perspective. So the book, I correct me if I'm wrong, but the book was born out of grief and grit. That's my words. What does it say about how we define masculinity today in the world?
So I don't actually think about males and females in a lot of ways. So if you look at my executive team, predominantly female, high achieving females, I'm very, very aware of ego, and ego is not something that has a place in my world. And so I like people that can really work together. And so I think that masculinity is like trying to describe weather in a sentence. Like it's I'm a guy, like so that's fine. I'm masculine because I'm not feminine. But and then what? And so I really look at people again. The ideation thing is, what is it that we can accomplish together?
Yeah.
And I don't like the things I see now are disturbing.
Interesting. Teaching moments right there with Garnet Morris, everybody, about masculinity. Come back and listen to this segment. Here's the thing I thought about. My brain went on a journey that I've worked with a lot of women and obviously men. I'm married to obviously my wife, who's a manager in the banking industry. And I've discovered throughout my career the term transformative and transactional leadership. And I believe that women do this really well, better than men. And I've said this publicly, even when I ran my companies, that women use the part of themselves that's emotion. They can connect to you in different ways than sometimes men, because we're taught don't cry, don't be tough. The pathway in the brain that I understand to change. I'm not going to change. If I read your book and I talk to you, I'm not going to change my direction and my behavior, Garnet, unless there's some emotion. You trigger something in me emotional. And so I agree. I like what you said. I think women are great leaders. They're missing in the boardrooms and in businesses, but I really wish men would get off their high horse and stop being so tough and realize it's okay to show vulnerability. It's okay to say something that opens you up to risk, because in leadership, that's a strength. What do you think about what I said?
Well, the way I look at it, I guess men are going to have to wake up. The high horse they're riding on is not going to have a ranch before long, because as you look at, as we move from so when you meet a guy, the first thing the guy asks the other guy is, what do you do? When a woman meets another woman, they say, how many children have you? So if you take away the what does you do part, and guys are scrambling, I mean, AI and robotics changes white collar work, not just blue collar. I mean, it changes it up and down. So that's going to change that thing. What do you do? But it isn't going to change how a woman functions, which is that. So I think we all better learn how to be a little bit more compassionate and get a lot better of understanding of each other, because I think we're going to have a bit of a challenging time ahead as we go through what perceived to be the next industrial revolution.
Yeah, I think that's a great statement you made, and I have to say, I put up on the screen again the book. There's a picture that I got from your team, but one of the ways I think that people can do what you just said is by sharing stories. Telling stories, when we tell the stories about our life and ourselves, and that's what you've done so well. Everybody, I'm going to do a shout out for the book and just encourage you to get it and write a review for it, because author's work's not known unless you write it. Here's something I'm going to brag about on your behalf. Man, when I took the jacket off, guess what I found underneath? A beautiful cover that looks like the jacket. Very few books are like that. They're cheap and they don't have, so kudos to you, man, for doing that. This is like a keeper for the shelf. So I really like the way that looks.
And by way of advertising, it's in Spanish, Portuguese, and Hungarian.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
Because I have friends that speak those languages first, and it just seemed to be, if I really wanted the book to have an impact, that I have to go.
That's great.
Get it written for them.
So do you have did you, in the jacket, did you put a mustache and a sombrero on your picture? So
it just looks the same, only it's hard to tell Portuguese from Spanish. I have to use Google Translate to make sure I keep them separate.
Yeah, that's great. What was it like collaborating with a co-author to write this book?
We cried a lot, because we were walking through these periods in our life, the things that have happened. I mean, there was more than one time in the runs where we stop and give each other a hug, because the conversations got so intense from an emotional perspective. So I had an objective when I asked Olivia to co-write the book, because we had this affinity, is that she can use this as a stepping stone to go where she wants to go in life, because she's young kids and so forth and so on. So that was my purpose, and it's the same purpose for other young people. I mean, that was always who my target audience was young adults that are just figuring life.
Yeah, I like it a lot. There are little strategies, little hacks. So there's little stories from both of you, and then little strategies and hacks. So it's relatable, but it's also something that everyone can put as a reference book on their shelf, and especially leaders in particular. I want to go back and just throw something at you to talk about. When I feature a book on the show, I do a bit of research, read it, and write some notes. So this is what I think the meaning of your book is, and a little bit about the structure. I'd like to hear from you, what you think. So I just wrote here, the 17 runs, Garnet and Olivia Chadwick combine memoir and mentorship to tell a story of rebirth through pain. It's about trauma and truth. There's metaphors in it, and there's this removing one brick from the wall that separated you from authentic living. I love that. The parts of you, like your siblings, those are all in there. This thing about releasing shame and reclaiming purpose, we can ask you to explain that. And her young son became a reminder of why life is worth fighting for. There's something deep in that. And in the structure part, what stood out for me was as I mentioned, all the anecdotes and things, but it was the reflections on mental health and leadership I thought was very helpful. So just anything you want to say about what I said, tear it apart, correct it, anything you want people to know about the book further?
My passion is young people. And so I mentor 4 or 5 young people that from different areas that I work with, both male and female. And I really believe that the essence of the book, to sum up everything you said, is overcoming and actually having the tools to overcome. So when you want to overcome a situation, you have to first of all decide that you're going to.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to decide what tools you might need. So I would have gotten nowhere had I not met the coaches in my life. But at the same time, I had to decide I was humble enough and to be coached, because I didn't know everything. In fact, I knew absolutely nothing. And I'm more aware of what I don't know than what I do know. And I still find coaches everywhere in all kinds of aspects.
Yeah, thank you for that thought. I think interesting about coaching, I've met people who love coaching, and then I've met other people, particularly at high levels of leadership that I've met. And I was one of these where when I first I worked for a Canadian company around as part of an $8 billion market cap insurance company. I don't know if you know that about my background, but the company was global. I ran the Canadian side of it, and they offered me a coach. Whoops, we lost your camera there, Garnet. Up there, it came back. And they offered me a coach as part of my integration into my team, and I didn't want it. And I remember my coach started working with me, and this is a true story. We were in a boardroom one day, and she just started trying to break me and giving me feedback. And she said, you're so successful, guy, but you kind of grandstand. It's a bit about you. And then she said something about my dad, and I welled up. I teared up, and I broke. And I said, stop, because she was raising her voice and being very direct. I said, stop. I said, you sound like my father. And this is like, I was 31 years old. And she stopped, but she realized there's something deep there, which was about the way my dad and I, our relationship. He was addicted, but I took physical and mental abuse most of my life through him when he was with me. And what was interesting, I just want to share this so you have the context. Before he died, I had coffee with him a few months before he passed unexpectedly of a heart attack. And I hadn't seen him most of my life. And I think God I'm faith-based, said, somehow I heard this feeling that I have to go see Dad because he wanted me back in his life. And I hated him, as from a point of view of most don't understand. The one thing I did at that coffee, 45 minutes, Garnet, is I said to my dad, tell me about grandfather. And then I learned about his father's story. And my dad's dad was a chronic drunk. And what I learned through my doctorate research in the last year was my ancestry comes from slavery, that the Indians were sent from India through to the plantations in different countries through an indentured labor program that was covered up in the history books. And my great-grandfather was one of those, and they were treated like coolies. They were treated very bad. So my great-grandfather survived, and obviously his dad was my dad. So as soon as I learned about my dad's story, it broke the pain. It was like, now I understand the generational trauma and how that can feed through. And I've done a lot of work on myself to try to be a kinder, better person towards my own daughter. So give me your thoughts on that, about generational trauma and your dad and mom's story, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, my mom's father escaped the Irish famine. So he was homesteader in Saskatchewan. So always poor, always dirt poor. My dad's family was not. Heritage of British royalists, So, just a different thing. So my mom didn't know what she didn't know. And it was unfortunate. I had the duty of a son, so I had nothing to do with her. I wanted nothing to do with her.
Yeah.
I told her I would make sure she could make ends meet, and that I would phone her and she could talk for 45 minutes every other week.
Yeah.
And so I'd call her, she'd talk, and then I'd say that's the end of the time. And we had a rule, she couldn't talk about dead people I didn't know. And so that was how I dealt with it.
Yeah.
But when I look at our family now, we really work hard at trying to make sure that those things aren't there. So going to your coaching, every one of our kids has a mentor. We have a mentor. All the executive team in my family office have mentors. So
Amazing.
mentorship is actually a criteria of being part of our family.
I love it, Garnet. In my team, I'll say this to you, and I say it to everybody else. I have a counselor or like a psychologist. That's part of my care team. My personal trainer and a coach. I think everybody should have one. You're a great example of what that looks like. I'm so proud of you. A couple more questions, and we're going to honor you with a couple of things. Do you believe modern society is healing or hiding its pain?
Well, I mean, I don't really think of it that way. I'll tell you what I like. The thing that makes me nutso is that everything that we see is fabricated. So we don't actually get to have a conversation like you and I are having, which is real.
Yeah.
So you look at how people portray themselves in social media. You know, the perfect meal, the perfect life, the perfect children. Well, we know that's not accurate. We look at our politicians and how it's fabricated. So I think the thing that makes me feel the illest is like, so I mean, I'm just jumping around a bit, but
No, please.
as far as I have a friend who just got his PhD in theology.
Yeah.
And so we were having this big debate. So he wrote a book, and I said, this is the worst book you could have possibly read. You didn't even put any effort in. Like, you could write something really impactful if you put your mind to it. So we go around and around. And I talked about the Gandhi principle. Like, Gandhi had no followers on the first day. And so why aren't you leading that? So then we got into talking about, what if the 10 Commandments were incorporated in every company's mission statement or success factor? So what if that was incorporated into politics? What if that was that? So I think that, we have to be aware that, we're drifting away from what is honest and true. And without pointing fingers at anybody, it's up to each of us in our own life to make those decisions. And so that's going right back to the value statements and integrity and honesty and all of those things. And I think it's incumbent on each of us to go there.
Wow, there's so much in that. I'm just going to turn around and get something here. Mentioned 10 Commandments. You see the stack of my books in my studio if I go like that. These are all authors' books, and by the way, yours will be right there for the rest of my history of my show to honor it. But I found this, particularly later in my life when I had my brain injury, I had to find a way through it. But what you triggered in me is what this book, reading the chapters or the books in this book taught me, and I'm not very sophisticated with explaining it, is how to be kind, how to love others. They call it walking in the Word. But see, I didn't learn that growing up as a kid. And many kids don't learn that. You have tough parents, or you have circumstances, or you lose a parent. And this was part of my mentorship, as well as what you were saying about coaching. When you say you coach youth or kids, how old would that be roughly?
So 19, 22...
Okay.
30, 45,
wow.
Like various, and so and I'm just taking on another one. So the thing that I get, so I have a coaching young lady from Scottsdale, and she gives me great hope for the future. Just tremendous level of drive.
Yeah.
And I coach a couple other young men, and they give me great hope for the future because they're very focused on one. Sure. Designing devices to detect heart disease. Like they're accomplishing things in the world. But then I say, well, how do we hold those kids up as examples for the kids that are just drifting? And how can we make a difference? So I'm speaking at a big event in Boston, in June to 4,000 kids that want to become doctors. And the whole purpose is to talk about resilience and how you need to develop resilience to go through life today. So I'm really going to go kind of all in to try to help young people just learn the basics of, how to get through the tough corner.
That's how do they come to you? Do you do people refer, or do you seek them out, or?
No, they phone me. I mean, I get a few people. And
of course. Yeah. I mean, when people dig in really to who you are, I know the background of your life and career, but you know a lot of people. this thing about identity, I just want to touch on this because you triggered it. I mentioned my doctorate. I actually just submitted my thesis in July, and I'm being examined in February. Is I never thought I'd be doing something like that after what I came through. But my thesis is called "The Quiet Revelation: Uncovering Identity in a Complex World," and I spent a lot of time digging into what personas and masks we wear, and that's why you see my studio. Some of the artifacts around, there's these images of masks, and what I really loved about something you brought to our attention is it's very true. I talked to my daughter about the social media aspect and how people they're performative and they wear these masks, and social media and podcast hosts, they never show their true self. So I want to say this to you to honor you, that what I learned is that when we can show up authentically as our true selves, meaning reveal, share what we really are, take off the mask of the Garnet financial guy who's got this and that, I can see you. And when I see you, I can see myself. So the more I learn about Garnet, the more I learn about myself. And it's such a gift the work you're doing, because if you don't do this kind of work, so these young youths who are you're mentoring, I can see that, because you're a guy who can show up and read the room and see people in a way many can't, because of what you've gone through. What do you think about that?
Well, I care, and so I can tell you that each of these kids has earned my respect. And so I am all in when I mentor them, and I'll have tough conversations with them. So we will dig right into values, and I'll ask them flat out, have you ever lied? And I'm giving a talk on Friday, and it's one of my slides. Have you ever lied? Well, everybody's lied. So that makes you a liar. Now, are you still lying? Or have you made that change in your life where you don't lie anymore?
Yeah.
Because if you don't like the feeling of being called a liar, then think about that.
Yeah. I think we're born liars. Hey, have you ever told a lie? Nope. Oh, I just lied.
That's right.
I'm going to put something on screen here a minute just to show you. You mentioned something about AI and robotics and things. So there's a new segment I'm trying out, not with you here, but I call it critical thinking with AI. And this was actually something I just created, this image. And so I want to remove that. I'm a big fan of using large language models. People don't understand it, but I'm a fan of why they're there and prompting it to help me with things. I'm going to share a screen with you and show you something, and then get your comment on it. Let me just put it up here. Okay, I know it's very small when it comes up, Garnet, but I'm just going to read it for the sake of the audience. So I use AI to ask questions. Like if you were here as my coach, I'd talk to you, but otherwise I'll use AI to mentor and coach, and I'll challenge it. So I put in here running. What mental health benefits are there in running? And so, this kind of some of the things came out. Well-documented mental health benefits from running. Look at the list there. Reduces stress, anxiety, improves mood and emotional regulation, helps with depression, mild to moderate, builds resilience and mental toughness, improves focus, clarity, enhances sleep quality, supports identity and self-esteem, encourages connection when chosen. So there's a lot. When I read your book, it wasn't just about the 17 runs, but it was about mental health. So I'm going to throw this question to you in macro. If you could reshape how we talk about mental health in Canada or in the world, where would you begin?
Well, I think there's two kinds of mental health. And I think there are people who actually have a health issue that is there, that their brains have a different form. Yeah. And there's self-induced mental health issues from things that we do to ourselves or positions we take. And I think that we have to first teach people that, if you get depression because you spend half your day on social media, well, then the easiest thing to do is to stop.
Yeah.
And I have a story. A young guy phoned me and said, I really want to talk to you. I want a minute. I've heard a lot about you. And so the first bit of conversation, he says, I worry I drink too much. I said, well, that's a really easy one. Just stop. He says, well, what do you mean just stop? I have a lot of fun when I drink. Well, actually, it's bothering you. So just stop. Why? What problem are you solving by drinking? It's worrying you. So just stop. I just stopped drinking. I stopped drinking when I was 20. No big deal. They always
Well,
got everybody else's car, you know.
That's interesting. I didn't know that about you. The stop drinking for alcoholics is not as easy, but I know my dad, when he died, I have to say this because I've talked about his drinking, but he was 23 years in AA. And so for some people, I've read a lot of research on alcoholism that there's a whole percentage of the population, as you might have suggested, that are having drinks, but for the wrong reason. You know, I've had a stressful day, so I got to have a glass of wine or a scotch. And I always ask myself this question, Garnet, and you triggered this thought that when I do have a glass of wine, my wife's Italian, so we need to enjoy some wine once in a while. I'll always ask myself now, why are you having this? And I learned that alcohol does really funny things to the brain, but it numbs pain. And so I think you nailed it there, that you tell this guy to stop, well, and you challenge him, why are you doing that? Well, behind that is pain, in addiction.
And so from there, you know, if you're struggling with addiction, you need coaches, and the coaches exist to help you combat, you know, an addiction. So, but the first thing you have to decide is you're going to deal with it.
For sure.
If you don't decide that, you won't.
The biggest thing you've said in this conversation segment is that, because my mom always used to say that my dad needed to get help, and he had to hit the bottom before he said, I need it. You know how my dad actually went and got help in AA? Lost his job, broadsided a woman in a car, almost killed her and her baby, and abused his whole family with his behavior, particularly his kids, and lost everything. And that's when he decided he needs to get help. And so I think everyone listen to this show and advice from Garnet. If you're having alcohol and it's doing something that is covering up something else, you know, talk to Garnet, talk to people who can coach you through it. Awesome stuff. I'm going to go into, we're finishing Plato's. I'm going to just finish with a couple of quick things here. A new segment we've been doing for a while called the unwritten book question. And this is fun because you wrote a book. So here we go. If there was an 18th run, what would it be about?
Sorry, if there was an
18th run, what would it be about?
So I actually probably will write a book, and I'm going to write a book on how to succeed in life and business when you're just not that smart. And because in a lot of ways I was never, I had ADHD, and so, you know, I learned as a kid how, remember earlier talking about, you know, always want to take something to the school for the teacher and racing home when you forgot. So I learned how to make habits. And so I made my bed. Everything in my life was a process. Even how my wallet goes at the same place every night. The keys go here, the keys go there. Everything, if I don't put it there, I can't find it. So, you know, I was never, I don't know what my IQ is, it's never been measured. But I do know that if you really want to succeed in life and in business, it really is just a decision. And it has nothing to do with intellect. It's all to do with all those things that you brought up today, kind of in a compilation. And I really would like to write that book, not because I'm really good at writing books, but I really think that young people need to understand that success has nothing to do with brilliance. It is all to do with decisions you make and the habits you form and your willingness to change.
Wow, that's so profound. I hope you do it. Everybody, we captured it here. Garnet being Garnet, saying that he's going to challenge himself with this new book. I've got a phone that's ringing there, so hopefully that'll stop in a minute. Sorry about that. One of the things when you get into doing that, if you do that at some point, is I challenge you to tackle this thing that I struggle with, which is sometimes I know that success is a habit. I know I have to decide to do things, but I have these unconscious, probably one or two thought patterns about not being good enough. And you know all this because it comes from what's put in us from others that it's not true. That would be really cool because that's one of the biggest things that I know a lot of leaders struggle with is they'll build their companies and then they'll try to bankrupt it, or they'll find success and they just don't feel unconsciously that they deserve it. So they'll find ways to screw it up. And this happens in relationships too and things, as you know. But on that, let's get into the book and reward you here. Did you know you were getting a reward for your book today?
Nope, didn't know that. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. You didn't lie. So let me pull it up here. I'm going to share a screen with you here. And we do this because we want to repurpose it so you can use it to, oops, I'm going to share screen. Stand by here. That's not it. I have a bit of latency, convergence, divergence from my concussion. So when I look for things, sometimes I fake it, but it takes a while. So here it is here. Share screen. And we're going to put it on the screen here. Okay, there it is. I'm not, pardon all the garbage that's there, but so we're going to just start this. Hold on a minute. Everybody, I'm releasing today an international review, 5-star review for Garnet's and Olivia's book. It's on the screen there, but I'm just going to read it out loud. So 5-star review by Tom Dutta. It's already posted and live, as you can see, on Amazon. Title of my review, A Run Towards Truth, and the best book you'll never read the same way twice. 17 Runs isn't a fitness book. It's a mirror. Garnet Morris and his co-author Olivia invite us to lace up and confront the weight we carry, both seen and unseen. I knew him once as a sharp business mind, but this book reveals a man rebuilt by pain and grace. Every chapter feels like a run through memory, sweat, tears, and truth. His willingness to talk about loss and mental health is a service to every leader who thinks they must hold it together alone. The writing is raw and honest, yet crafted with hope. It reminds us that forgiveness is a practice and healing is a marathon we run one step at a time. If you've ever lost someone or yourself, this book will meet you where you stand and walk beside you until you're ready to run. 5 stars because sometimes the story that breaks you is the one that saves you. Tom Dutta, congratulations, Garnet.
Well, thank you very much. I really feel that you and I have a significant affinity for thinking through the tougher things in life. And I really enjoyed having this conversation.
You do, and I'm going to... That's fake, cheap applause, but it's the best we do on a podcast. All right, and the last thing before we get you to have the last word is we're going to honor you with an award. So if you've seen my other live shows, you'll know about this. Let me just put another camera on the screen here. Okay, I'm sure being as well-traveled and as you are, have you heard of challenge coins before?
Nope.
Oh my goodness. Well, this is a treat because sometimes I get people say, yeah, I know what they are. Well, when I ask you that again, you're not going to lie. You're going to say, yeah, Tom told me. So here it is. So it comes in a little sleeve like this. So I'll read you what it is. Challenge coins, Garnet, the history where they surfaced during the World War I era. The practice of carrying a coin designed specifically for a unit was popular with the Army Special Forces. Carrying the coin at all times and presenting it when challenged to prove affiliation with that unit resulted in a number of consequences for those who could not produce a coin. The most popular required the coinless soldier to buy a round of drinks. That practice, by the way, still continues today. Remember when my father was in AA, they had coins when he was in the Army, first responders everywhere. So when I started the show, I had them made, hand-painted, painted, crafted, minted in the U.S., and I said, I want the people who come through the show, as you know, I vet hard. You can't get on my show easy, is the 1% in the world who have taken something, transformed themselves, and went out and made a purposeful impact in the world. So here's the front of the coin. It's the show emblem with some words. But the back is, I'm biased, but it's my treasured The Hero's Journey narrative by Joseph Campbell about the journey we take that you've been on, really, where you go and experience pain, but then go seek and find and come back as a shaman, a guide, a coach to help others. So welcome to the Quiet Warrior community. Well, thank you. And what is your PhD in? You didn't say that part. I mean, it's, what's the... Yeah, so it's a doctorate. And let me just remove this off the screen here. And it'll be in the repository when I hopefully graduate, and I'll get you a copy. It's a doctorate of public work. So the program itself is for people like you and I who have made an impact in the world. So say you've written a book and you've made an impact. In my case, I've written 3 books. I've done 300 podcasts plus. I've built an education company to coach and train people and being an executive before that. And I also do something which I didn't talk about with you. I do prison ministry. I go into prisons and sit with inmates and have them read books to their children, then we record it. So what you do is it's transdisciplinary. So you basically will take your public work, and then they'll mentor you, the professors, but they guide you and they allow you to go transdisciplinary across disciplines and research. So my research is rooted in psychology and neuroscience, psychotherapy, a little bit of science. And so what I'll do is I've read 230 articles and books, and I'll read something. It's really hard, especially with the cognitive issues I had. But then you go back and they say you critique your work. So you have a conversation with your book through the lens of your research. And what's come out of it is a thesis on finding identity in a complex world. I'll reveal it to you, that I've come up with a new framework that I'm trademarking. I might want to get you to mentor me and talk to me. I don't have a mentor this close, but it's something I want to bring back into my public practice that I think could change the world in educating and leading.
So I have a thought for you. So you've mentioned the fact that you had an accident. You endured significant damage to your brain. So in my world, I always look at what gift did that give me? And so it really seems to have given you the desire to overcome and to do really challenging things that push your skills right to the end. And that's where I am in life. And I mean, we've got some projects that we have undertaken and made promise to people that are, crazy hard. But I think the one thing to keep us from aging is to continually do, like you're doing really hard things and really pushing ourselves to not just sit back and take, and we need to do that now. There's never been a time where it's so needed. So congratulations on that.
Well, thanks, Garnet.
That's wonderful.
I appreciate that. So my exam, if 4% professors are going to challenge me on it, it's in February the 12th. So if you remember that date somehow, hopefully Valentine's Day, I'll be in love with my work again. It's been fun, but I'll keep in touch with you on that. I'd love to sit down over coffee sometime with you too and just brainstorm, because I think
we would have a great conversation. So if I was in front of 4 professors, I would ask them what they're doing in life that's hard.
I love it. That's interesting. You gave me a gift, because I get 30 minutes to present in any way I want. And you can interact. They say don't challenge them, but you can interact with the question. You're a smart guy. All right, my last question to you, and this is a segment called The Warrior's Torch. And the last guest, whose name was Chip Higgins, and from America, he was a career banker and then created his own platform for teaching small business people. Very interesting story of his own. You can find his interview. We asked him to leave a question for you. And this is the question. And then we're going to get a question from you offline for the next guest. So let me find the question here. You may have touched on some of this, but just anything you want to say in addition. So here it is from Chip. Is there an event or experience that unexpectedly changed the course of your career?
Yes. And I can tell you what it is. I mean, there's more than one, but the one that jumps right off the page, I met the CEO of the Mississippi Hospital Association. I was introduced to him by another friend that I'd met in Mississippi by pure coincidence from somebody I know in Lexington, Kentucky. And when I understood the challenges of living in Mississippi, I came up with a plan to launch a campaign to help everybody in Mississippi eat healthier. So we are underway, and we put together a team and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm being transformed on a monthly basis. So I tell people, I'm 71. I have no short-term memory. So everything I do in life is based on what happened today.
That's awesome. I can give you another round of applause. There you go, Chip. I asked Chip to watch this and see it back. So that's very cool. Again, it's an example of what you said. You're always thinking and doing things to make the world better. So that is cool. I can't wait to hear how that project goes. Before I ask you where to get a hold of you, you talk about your team. Just paint a picture. You don't have to mention everybody's name, but you have a company, but you have this team you talk about. Just paint a picture of what that is.
So we run everything through a family office. So, we have more than 30 healthcare investments around North America. We have some very active ones. We own a medical clinic in Vancouver. We just opened another one for women's health. We have probably the most definitive approach to women's health in North America. We are actively involved in executive comp in the U.S. So we've got a great team, and so we all have mentors. We all have values. Our values are on the table, and people that don't have those values aren't on our team.
That's very cool,
including our kids.
Yeah, congratulations on all that, man. There's a lot to that. When we meet for coffee, I'll learn more about that. I'm very interested in that. This thing about it's a whole new topic. Might have you back again about being in business with family and family enterprise. It works, and sometimes it's harder. And the stuff you're doing with the healthcare, I saw your post on LinkedIn about that women's thing. It blew my mind. Well, I didn't talk about it because this show's about you, but how I recovered from my brain injury was by meeting the fellow who runs the Surrey Neuroplasticity Advanced Brain Clinic, Dr. Ryan Darcy, who if you haven't met him, you might want to.
We actually have an investment in one of their, so I know Dr. Darcy.
Awesome. So just so you know, you might know about this, but it took me a couple of years to figure out my path because they couldn't figure it out. I couldn't walk straight. I couldn't talk. There was latency. And I had double vision and light sense, all this stuff, right? And traditional doctors would not figure it out. I was doing my TED Talk. I did it February 2020, the Bell Center for Arts. And Ryan was standing behind stage with me because he was doing his TED Talk. And I was very sick, Garnet. I actually wasn't well, but I wanted to do it to tell the story of mental health and my injury. So hopefully you'll see it sometime. And he looks at me, he goes, Dutta, he says, Tom, he says, I know your story. You should get your butt into our clinic. And I dismissed it. But then when I looked into it, they used advanced technology to diagnose what was going on in my brain. And then they used an electronic device, a tongue depressor that accelerated neuroplasticity of the brain. And it's remarkable. In 22 weeks, I was walking straight again. I was talking faster. I was standing on one foot. And I learned the power of how the brain can actually retrain itself. We have it till we die, neuroplasticity. So I love the work you're doing with healthcare. And it's cool that you have a connection to Ryan's stuff.
Well, I know what the Pons is, and I know we have.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Clinic,
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Well, we'll talk about that. On that note, where can people get a hold of you and your stuff and your book? Anything you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I think my email address is garnet.morris.personal@gmail.com. It should be, you're free to give that out. They can reach out to me and I'll respond. Always happy to talk to people. I love talking about what we can do for others. I think that's the thing. And so I do have a question I can leave behind if you want one.
Yeah, why you want to do it now? Because I usually get it.
When you wake up in the morning, I'd like you to ask yourself this question: to what problem am I a solution? And what can I do to solve a problem better than anybody? And if you don't know the answer to that, you're not reading enough, you're not thinking enough, you're not doing enough, because you should be able to answer that question.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. We've never done that live, but there's the question for our next guest. And the next guest, I'll tell you when time is, who they will be. We'll make sure we get that question answered. So I'll put your email address in the show notes. We'll put it up on the production. This will be produced and released as a future podcast across, we're in 19 countries now, across the world in all the feeds. Also as a YouTube premiere video. And because I love this interview, the depth of it, what I'll be doing is taking the long form. We've gone almost an hour and a half, which is remarkable, and creating 100 short clips that we will put across all the social media feeds. Short clips, if you don't know, shorts are 30 seconds to 2 minutes, and they have captions. So we're going to give you all the exposure for your book and honor Olivia and your story, Garnet. I'm so proud of you. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. And every day that goes by, I learn a little bit more about social media, because before I wrote the book, I wasn't anywhere. So,
well, dude, you're everywhere now. Yeah. That's a blessing, not a curse. All right, everybody, find your true purpose and passion, like you've heard here from Garnet Morris, and live the life that you deserve, but live the life that you desire, and find out what you're here to do, as you just heard from Garnet. And we'll see you all next week on the Quiet Warrior Show. Thank you so much, Garnet.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. I really appreciate this a lot. It's been a great conversation.
All right, stand by. Don't go away.
Thank you for listening to the Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca.
I'm just ending the stream now. They can still see. So ending stream.